Well, hello there, friends. Thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on what might be an embarrassing video for me, just simply because I said I'm about done making homemade black powder. And as the title is telling you, I'm going to be using hickory. But before I get into that, let me just kind of explain something a little bit, okay? In the video, one of the videos I did about Osage orange, some people call it beau d'arc. You use the French expression, bois d'arc. It just depends on where you're at in the country and how you pronounce these names. Some people call them hedge apples. When you use the word, yeah, I've got a whole row of hedge apples, you should know that it's Osage orange, which goes to the Native American, the Osage Indians. But that's neither here nor there. But in that video, I made a comment that Osage orange was the hardest hardwood on this continent. And somebody in the comment sections basically said, no, that's not true. There are other harder woods. Well, let's clarify that, just simply because not everybody has this acquired knowledge regarding wood. I possess a great deal of it because of being a bowyer, and I have to kind of know what certain species of woods are capable of doing when you're trying to build a very performative wood bow. Now, so let's just take a moment or two and look at the classifications of wood so that that statement I made about Osage orange might be a little more clear for you. Okay, woods are classified. Okay, you have your softwoods, you have your evergreens, which most evergreens are a soft wood. Okay, then you have some of your softwoods that still drop leaves. Aspen is one of those. There's a couple others. I can't think of what they are at the top of my head, but they'll probably come to me here as I discuss this. So even within soft woods, you have two categories. You have your evergreens, which are soft woods, and you poplar. There we go. See, I told you it would come to my mind. Poplar is still considered a softwood even though it drops leaves. Okay, it's just not an evergreen. And when you get into hardwoods, you have a different classification of wood. Like your oaks would fall into that category. Obviously, Osage orange, your hickories, your maples. Things like that. In reality, cottonwood is considered a soft wood, although it has a specific gravity, that's in the mid-40s. So you kind of have to balance all of that out. Now, when it comes to ironwoods, now you're talking a different classification of wood. It's not really considered a hardwood, such as Osage orange, oak, maple, hickories, but it has a classification of its own. And this is some Arizona desert ironwood. It's a different classification of wood. Okay? Most of the ironwoods that we work with in the wood industry comes from South America, such as your Purple Hearts, your Bloodwoods. God, I gotta think right off the top of my head. Maybe perhaps Bacote, Ipe, Jatoba. Those woods are actually classified as iron woods. So when we talk about this, and you don't quite understand like the terminology, Osage orange is the hardest of hardwoods on this continent. I'm talking about hardwoods. I'm not referencing ironwoods. There is a difference. Now, I'm going to be using hickory in making this black powder. You have to understand hickory is a hardwood, but within the category of hickories, there are different types, such as pignut. That's what this is. This is pignut hickory. Now I can't do much with this because if you look at the ends, the boring critters got to it. So what I've been mainly doing with this is planing it down, putting it in my my lathe, and I'm making short starters for muzzleloader shooters. And here's one right here that I made out of oak. But I'm making most of these now out of pignut hickory because several years ago I did a rendezvous with somebody that I knew, wanted one of my items. He was indicating he was going back east somewhere and he could pick me up some pignut hickory that I could make bows out of. And unfortunately, most of the pignut hickory he got was stuff like this. It's very, very, very difficult to make a good quality bow out of something like this. So I got a lot of little pieces, okay? But within the hickory, such as your pignut is the strongest of hickories. But you have to be careful when you go to the hardware store, to the lumber yard, to buy hickory. Because a lot of times, pecan is sold under the category of hickory. And in some people's mind, it's the same. Being a bowyer, in my mind, it's not the same, just simply because hickory, according to Bowyer's Bible, has a specific gravity of 0.72. So it's a heavy wood, but it's not heavy like Osage orange at 0.82, 0.83. But from a Bowyer's perspective, pecan has a specific gravity of 0.66, which puts you right there in that category of hard rock maple. See, so there is a difference. And for me, taking this knowledge and applying it into making homemade black powder, I have that knowledge. So that's why I could say that Osage orange is the hardest of hardwoods, because I was not including ironwoods. When I do this, I have to make sure that you as the audience understands that if you're going to run to the lumber yard and think you're buying hickory, you may not be buying hickory. You may be buying pecan. Now, for me, I understand this whole concept, and also having worked with hickory so much, when I sand a piece of hickory, it has a very distinctive odor. If you were to take and sand hickory and then sand a known piece of pecan, you can smell the difference of the dust that you're breathing in. And there is a clear difference in the smell. So as I go through making this video, understand and know that this is hickory, and it is pignut, which is the strongest of the strongest hickories, excluding pecan. Now, I'm also doing this also from the perspective that, being a bowyer, I know when it comes to hickory, you can peel the outer bark and get to that white sapwood, and that white sapwood can become the back of the bone. In other words, it's not as strong as the heartwood, but it's strong enough to produce a very good bow using the white sapwood. Now, if you were to do that, say, with Osage orange, that outer sappy layer, that white wood on Osage orange, will make the bow come apart, because the heartwood in Osage is stronger. So you want to get down to that heartwood. That's why I did that video a little while back on this channel, making gunpowder out of cedar pet bedding, which has a tremendous amount of sapwood, that white, creamy, milky, wood that you get to just as you peel off the outer bark, as opposed to the Hardwood. And if you watch that video, you saw, granted it wasn't much, but I did get a few more feet per second in velocities with the gunpowder I made just out of the cedar Hardwood. So, you know, whether you friends want to think, you know, well, it really doesn't matter, that's totally up to you. Because like I've said, I've got what I want as far as numbers and things like that. For me, this is just a, hey, well, let's just check it and see, because we all saw how wonderful Osage Orange performed as a gunpowder, but I tend to attribute that to the resin, because we all should recognize now that Osage Orange has a resin associated with it. Hickory does not, and the very fact that you can see the animal, the critter that was boring into this, they love it. There's no resin to prevent that from happening. So with this short explanation, right, short, I'm going to go to debarking this, and I'm going to get this in my jointer so that when I char it, it's going to char more evenly. And I've had this particular batch of pig nut hickory for about 7 years now, so I know it's well seasoned. It's dried out more than enough to make gunpowder with. So I'm going to get busy, and we'll catch you when I do the initial burn test right after I puck it. Well, I had to go to plant 13B just simply because my jointer at a 1/2 inch cut wasn't producing those fine pieces of flakes that I was really looking for, like what I got with my sycamore. So going to plant 13B, I split it with my axe, and then I went to my bandsaw and started cutting up small chunks of wood. But just so that you all know, you know, here's another piece. If you guys can see, the wood does burn pretty easy when you put a little bit of heat to it. So just a side note, if you're not, you know, familiar with hickory in itself, like even sanding it, you got to kind of be careful, because you can burn the wood real quick just sanding it. But as I was cutting this, the familiar smell of hickory. And I didn't cut up a whole lot of it. I cut up just enough to get me my 15 grams. And there it is, charring. Okay, that's how much charcoal that I have. It's not filtered yet, but I only put enough of the hickory in my charring can to what I thought was going to yield at least 15 grams of charcoal. And that's what I have right now. Once I run this through the filter, get all of that fine charcoal, I'll put them in those little mason jars, and then I'll do the side-by-side comparison with other charcoals that we already know what the specific gravity is. So in filtering this, all I do is I just put some in the filter into a container, you know, supporting the filter. Obviously this is just nothing more than 4-inch PVC, but what I do is I just take and hit the side of the filter to get everything moving. I don't like stirring it like this and working it like this, because it tends to get too much of the charcoal, you know, airborne. So I just sit here. I don't know if you guys can pick up what's filtering through, but at some point, because it does settle and it does kind of plug up those little, block those little tiny micro, you know, that micro screen, then I'll just take and move it a little bit and then go back to hitting the side of the filter and just kind of letting it filter through. And I'll lift it up from once in a while and just check and see how well it's filtering through that screen. And then bear in mind as I go through these, the only one that's actually gone through the microfilter is the Hickory. Okay, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a, you know, baseline here of what I'm trying to represent with these small jars. Here's the control, willow. We know that willow is 0.39, and 15 grams occupies that amount of space in that jar. Next to it is my juniper, which is a blend of both shaggy bark and alligator bark. And the research that I've done says low to medium, but I've guessed that it's about 48 to 0.50, just simply because in previous tests with absolute known specific gravities, you can kind of guess, you know, that this is about 0.48, 0.50. Here's the Hickory at what was it, 72. That's how much volume it occupies in this jar. And then next to it is the Osage Orange, which has got a specific gravity of 0.82, 0.83 if I remember correctly. And that's how that's represented in this jar. So Hickory being 0.73, Osage Orange being 0.82. You can see that that's represented pretty fairly correct with what Boyer's Bible is telling me. So anyhow, I'm going to get to getting my potassium nitrate and sulfur weighed out, get it in the ball mill. For you, it'll be just a moment or two. For me, it'll be about 30 hours. We'll see you then. So I'd like to just take a moment or two to explain to those that might be just clicking on this for the first time, maybe just learning how to make homemade black powder. You'll watch several videos, and depending on what you watch and who you listen to, you'll hear people talk about drying out their potassium nitrate. Some guys will put it in an oven, dry it out for a couple hours at 100 degrees, just to evaporate any moisture that might be weight-wise part of that 75 grams. This is what I did early on, you know, listening to those people. What I did is I weighed out 75 grams, and put it on the cookie sheet, and put it on the dashboard of my car for a couple of hours, and then I measured, you know, what that weight loss was. Left it in the car for an hour after that, measured what the weight loss was. And my final conclusion was, after several hours sitting in the sun, I had lost a total of 0.9 in weight. Presumably, that's the moisture that the potassium nitrate was holding on to. So I kind of want to show you guys here really what that actually is. Because it's really not as much as you think it is. But anyhow, let me just get reorganized here, and I'll show that to you. So there's 0.9 grams in this tablespoon. It's really not all that much. And in my opinion, it's really not worth writing home to mom about. But when you have 75 grams weighed out and you add that much more potassium nitrate, is it really going to make a difference? In my opinion, no, because this is my formula. 75.5, 75.6. I don't worry about that, because represented here really is just a minute amount when you compare that to 75 grams in this glass jar. It really doesn't make a hill of beans, does it, friends? So just something to think about when you watch other videos talking about, well, I put my potassium nitrate in an oven to dry it out so I can get a true 75 grams. Well, once again, that little bit is not going to make any difference in how your gunpowder turns out. So here's my initial burn. Once again, it's not wet. It's just damp from my 50-50 water acetone mixture. It's not been dried, and these are just the little pieces that work their way through during the pucking process. So let's see how good it burns when it's just a little damp. I'd say that went up pretty quick. Let me get you close up of the block. Okay, there's the block. I would say it's fairly clean for this initial test. And once again, this is Hickory. The KN03 is real minute, but let's stay consistent. Judge for yourselves. Compared to the last gunpowder I tested with the black walnut, just on my finger right here appears to be slightly cleaner. But ultimately, what I really want to look at is what do the patches look like, it's in particular after that fifth shot. So I'm going to go back to finish pucking. I'm going to get the stuff dried and do another burn test once everything is sized and dried. I know you guys are waiting for the next black powder test burn, but I've got that drying on the dashboard of my truck right now, so I figured I'd get a little bit of forging done. So just bear with me. So you might be a little curious. I got commissioned to make 4 of these style tomahawks for the Santa Fe Trail Mountain Man Rendezvous. This is the 50th year that this rendezvous has been in existence. And they want one for the men's first place, women's first place, boys and girls first place. And I've been hammering part of the tomahawk portion, the cutting portion, out this morning. Still got a little ways to go to get that out to what I need. So while I'm waiting for the gunpowder to dry, I figured I'd get the 4th one done. I've got 3 done already. This will be the 4th one. So what I'm making now, it's going to be a teacup tree. I've never made anything like this. At some rendezvous, the women like to get together, and I've been commissioned to fashion a teacup tree, something that they can hold the hot water pot on. Also, that's what I'm making now, is the hook. And I'm also going to put a lantern hook in it so that at night they can hang a lantern off of it. But most of the hooks are going to have a leaf. And then I'm going to attach this to the iron, and then I'm going to bend a hook into this, a little curly cube, to hold the cups on. And by the way, this is my first attempt at a leaf. Not half bad. Not half good, but it's not half bad. But this is just a practice piece. Now I kind of understand how to go with it, how to use the hammer, and getting it to spread out and things like that. So, all right, just bear with me and I'll go get the gunpowder. So here's 30 grains of hickory, dried and sized, my typical 2 to 3F. I think you'll all agree that went up pretty quick. Let me get you close up of the block. In fact, I'm going to compare this block with the other block previously. Nothing like burning gunpowder, right? Well, there's a close-up of the block. Once again, you decide for yourselves. This one I mill for 30 hours. KN03. That's the dry rub. There's the wet rub. Looking at it, I would say it's fairly clean compared to some of the other ones I've done, say like Choya, Maple. That looks pretty clean, but once again, and as I previously stated, won't know for sure until I get it down the barrel of a gun. Look at the patches, see what they look like, and in particular, after that 5th patch. So I'm going to get back to forging just simply because it's going to get real windy today, and I need to take advantage of it not being so windy. I don't know if you guys can see, but let me just show you real quick. So as you can see, I've got the fire out right now. That just simply because when the wind goes a-blowing real hard, that wind comes right down that chimney, right on top of my fire, and it just consumes the charcoal a whole lot quicker. But I still have some stuff to do today. Let me just show you real quick. So I showed you earlier that pattern of the tomahawk. I have enough material stretched right here in the curve, and as you can see, I'm going to be able to cut some off right in through here. So I'm going to go to grinding this out, cutting it out, just simply because it's getting too windy to even forge and shoot. So anyhow, we'll catch you guys, for you momentarily. For me, it might be a day or two. Stay tuned. Alrighty, I'm loaded up, ready to go. In case anybody's curious and knowing, 80 grains by weight. And if I can get the angle of the sun just right, you might be able to see where the line is for the 80. And just kind of guessing, I'd say it's probably between 82 and 83 grains by volume. So, let's see what she does. 1838. But remember, it's going down a clean barrel. I'm going to go mark it off the target, see where I hit, see if I can find the patch. Well, there's the patch. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but I would say, in my opinion, it's pretty clean. I mean, I'd say it's cleaner than some, and I'd say some, maybe my peanut shell, is cleaner than this for the first shot. So I'm going to continue on. I think you guys can see that. 1749. Now I found that patch. I don't know how well you guys can see it. I know for me in the view screen, the way the sun's reflecting, I can't see what you guys are looking at. But, you know, it's a second shot. It's a little dirtier. But if you look around, if you can see it where the ball sets, which would be on top of the powder charge, that's a lot lighter than the outer ring, which would be the black powder that you're pushing back down through the landing grooves. All right, I'll get another shot for you. $17.43. So there's that patch. Once again, what's sitting on top of the powder charge where the ball would be it's a lot cleaner than what would be pushed back down the barrel. So far, I'm impressed with it. I got 2 more shots to get you. $17.54. Well, there's that patch. I'd say it's consistent with the others I've picked up. And I haven't experienced any loading difficulty with this gunpowder, but once again, I'm using spit patch, so it tends to clean as it goes down. Get you the last shot here, and since it's so nice, we'll just finish up with the numbers outside here. $17.73. I'm going to go try to find that 5th patch, pull the target, and finish everything up right here. Well, there's that 5th patch. I dare say it's no dirtier or cleaner than anything else, really. I mean, it's It's right on par for what I thought was going to happen with Hickory being at a 0.72, 73 specific gravity. I like it. I actually do. Let me show you the lock. There's the lock. I don't know how well you guys can see it. Let me try to get some of it into the sun for you. Fair to middling about what everything else is other than that peanut shell. So alright, I'm going to crunch some numbers and I'll get right back at you. Okay, 5-shot average, 1771.4 with a spread of 95. Now I know I've been asking a lot of questions about spreads and things like that, but I'm also of the mind and the opinion that the fastest shot you're going to get is that first shot down a clean barrel. Throwing that shot out, taking the high and the low, that now gives me a spread of 30, which is a little more acceptable than the 95. But you know, make of that what you will. I know years ago, well, I shouldn't say years ago, up until I got my chronograph and was able to see what that first shot did, I'm no longer going to take a fouling shot when I go deer hunting, because you know, you would obviously want that first shot to be the fastest and among the most accurate shot you have. With that being stated, if you guys paid attention a little bit, because I've been noticing something when I put these videos into the editing program, that when I use a factory powder to flash or to charge the flash pan, my groups seem to open up, because it seems like, and a couple of you have actually noticed that too, it seems like that the ignition is slowed down just a little bit. And that third shot, I went ahead and really overcharged that pan just so that I could see for myself, even with the homemade gunpowder, if your pan is overcharged, if it would, you know, those micro movements of your lock coming down, hitting your frizzen face, opening up, if that would throw off the ball. So if you guys paid attention to that, shot number 3 ended up right here. And you can see where the other 4 went. They're all touching. So later in the summer, I'm probably going to be doing some videos along that line just to see if the factory powder you're using in your pan is slower to ignite the main charge than what your homemade gunpowders are. And the past couple of videos, I've noticed that myself. And like I said, you know, 1 or 2 of you have noticed that also. And you know, with that extra delay in the charge going off and those micro movements, I'm not gonna say, yeah, that caused that right here. That could have just been me. But that's something that I do want to experiment with the upcoming summer. There's one other thing that I want to interject right here. With the Hickory having a specific gravity of 0.72, 73, I forget which right now. My 100 grains filled the flask to about right here. And if I remember correctly, and if you can remember correctly, when I did the 100 grains of Osage, it was about halfway. So again, more bang for the buck. Just something for you guys to think about. So friends, thanks for watching what I've done with the DIY homemade black powder. Like I said, I've got all the numbers I want, you know, for a 5-shot average of 1771 with the high being 1838. It seems like all my homemade gunpowder, once you get past that first shot, run right in the, you know, 1750, 1760, you know, 1780 range. And, you know, again, which one of those makes you more dead? I'm not out here to, you know, make the cleanest of the cleanest or the fastest of the fastest or break any type of records. All I want to know is what this gun is doing when I'm shooting downrange. Is it more than enough to take game? And it obviously is. So thanks for watching, and everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.